evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here at another Northshire Presents online event. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rachel Person, the event manager for Northshire's Saratoga store, here as I so often am with my good friend and colleague, Davith Wood, event manager for Northshire Bookstore in Manchester Center, Vermont. Before we get started, a couple of very quick notes. First of all, we will have time for an audience Q&A at the end of this evening. You can type any questions that you have into the Q&A box that you'll find down at the bottom of your screen at any point. And then this evening's experience is going to be fairly interactive, so please make liberal use of the chat box to share your comments, your experiences, anything that you need in there. So please type away in that chat. Thank you all so much for being here. And before I turn things over to Davith to introduce our guest tonight, last of all, a word of thanks. Thank you so much for your incredible support of independent bookselling, both through your loyalty in the store over these last few years of crazy times in independent bookselling, and also by being here tonight. We really appreciate it, and thank you so much. And then Davith, why don't you introduce our guest?
Thank you so much, Rachel. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to this special event with Octavia Raheem tonight for her new book, Pause, Rest, Be: Stillness Practices for Courage in Times of Change. Octavia is a mother, an author, a yoga teacher and practitioner, and an activist. She founded Starshine and Clay, an online and retreat space for Black, Indigenous, and women of color to rest and restore. She's received national attention for her work training yoga teachers and diversifying the yoga and wellness industry. Her work has been featured in the Yoga Journal, Mantra Magazine, CNN, Atlanta Magazine, and elsewhere. Early reviewers of Pause, Rest, Be have said that Raheem has the authentic, steering voice of a teacher who is intimate with the mercurial nature of transformation. Pause, Rest, Be is a radical, meaningful, and practical medicine for a volatile, rapidly changing world. In addition to presenting her book tonight, Octavia will also lead a yoga and meditation exercise virtually. So please, if you haven't gathered them already, some pillows, some blankets, and a journal and a pen. Please join me in welcoming to Northshire, Octavia Raheem.
Thank you all. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. So I want to echo what's been said, and that is that you should pause for a moment here. Make sure you have your pillows, your blanket, that your physical space is how you want it to be. That if you need to close a door, open a door, you do that, right? So take a moment to gather your stuff, your things, and then let that be, that is also an invitation to begin to gather yourself. All right. So I like to start with that simple pause. I don't take for granted that just because you might be logging in from home, that it was easy to get here. So if you haven't had a chance to gather your things, we'll take about a minute to do that. And if you're moving, right, if you're moving around in your space, my invitation is also to start to move at half speed. Sometimes we're like, I got to get on my things. I got to get on my things. Move a little bit slower. And if you have all your things gathered, just notice what it feels like to be in this space where you are invited into a pause. Okay, so you might be sitting in a chair. You might be resting or sitting on your bed. You might be in a recliner. You might be on the floor. You really can be anywhere that you want to, any place that feels easeful and comfortable, protective and safe for you. Be in that place. I like to start with a few inquiries. And the first one is just tell us where you are. Tell us what city and state you are in. And I learned this practice from one of my mentors and teachers, and someone I affectionately call my yoga mama, Dr. Gail Parker. I'm going to add a layer to you telling us the city and state, okay? You can share, if you will, where you are physically situated, wherever you are, if you want to, right? It's all optional. So I'm in Powder Springs, Georgia, and I'm in my office / yoga studio where I do most of my practice. And if I have in-person one-to-one sessions, I do them here. More importantly, what I want you to know is I'm sitting at a desk that I bought for like 50% discount on Wayfair back in the day. And it's a desk I bought with the intention of making it my altar as a writer, or as one reclaiming my voice as a writer. So I'm sitting at the desk that I wrote Gather at, and that I wrote Pause, Rest, Be at, or to be more specifically, that I revised and edited, because a lot of it I wrote on the floor in my journals after my practices. But then when I got into the nitty gritty, I sat right here at this desk, right? And so why am I telling you all of that? Because when we're in this virtual space, I want to, however we can, create a sense of community, right? A sense of connectedness. And I want you to know where I am and why it matters to me. And I want to know where you are and why it matters to you as much as you want to share. It makes it a little bit more personal. Yeah. And so you can take a moment to just see where people are. It also helps us to sense into the vastness of the kind of circle we're casting here. And we have folks everywhere, from their office and their bed to their dining room, their bedroom floor, their breakfast room, their living room, right? It also reminds us that we can pause and rest and be wherever it is that we find ourselves, right? Sometimes we think, I can't do that practice. I can't start that thing because it's not perfect. The conditions or the setting isn't perfect. And it's a practice, not a perfect. Thank you so much for being here. My kitchen, yeah. So my second question, or inquiry really, is for you to first take a moment, breathing through your nose, exhale out. Just take one singular breath. And then just silently ask yourself the question, what part of me is most in need of rest? What part of me is most in need of rest? And trust whatever word or sensation rises to the surface first. And you can share that in the chat, or you could just write it down in your journal if you have that available. But what part of you is most in need of a pause? What part of you is most in need of rest? Brain, my mind, my mind. Shoulders, mind. Those two feel connected, right? My second toe, that's real. My heart, my legs, my back. My shoulders. And so scroll through and do pause, right? My body and eyes, my head. Pause and just notice if you see words that you resonate with, if someone else is tired in the way that you are tired. Sometimes in our fatigue in our challenges, in our struggles. We feel alone, like nobody else could possibly be having this experience. And while it's true that no one is having the exact down to the detail experience as you, we are having this collective experience of weary mind, achy back, tired heart, right? Yes, exhausted eyes, right? And so once you've taken that in, now we are together in virtual and physical space. We are aware of how we have shown up to the circle in some way, at least what is tired, what is in need of kind of holding or support or weariness. After you do that, just take a moment to look around your physical space. I invite you to do this for a couple reasons, right? Because sometimes you look around and go, "Oh, I want to grab that blanket or eye pillow before we really get started." Or you look and you notice your door is ajar and that your 5-year-old, I have a 5-year-old, might run into the room, right? And then the other reason is just so your body becomes really aware. Body and brain makes the connection. Here I am in space and time. This is an okay place to be. And then you can make a really conscious choice to close your eyes or not, because the next thing I ask you to do is close your eyes. And if you choose not to close your eyes and you start to look around and you go, "I'm not going to close my eyes in this room," then you fix your gaze on one point that is not moving. And then you let that gaze get really soft. And what I mean by soft gaze is just eyelids heavy. And already notice what that feels like. Notice if this pause right here is a welcome one. Notice if the pause feels intrusive. Notice if you close your eyes or just get still and start to soften your gaze, and all of a sudden, your mind, which you came here to rest, starts to light up. It becomes more active. You just notice, right? And so this evening, or whenever you might be catching this, if you catch the recording, we're going to weave in and out of some practices, some of them anchored in the book Pause, Rest, Be. And we'll finish right before Q&A with a more extended, like lay down, lean all the way back, come into supine rest practice. But I want to share some short rest practices for you that hopefully are really easy to remember and easy for you to return to on your own again and again and again, right? So here's one. You're simply sitting or eased back, however you are, with eyes closed or softly open. Notice where your hips touch the surface that is holding them. Notice your feet and ankles. You just start to notice your physical body, right? The body can only be here, can only be in the present tense, in the now. The mind, incredible, right? It can be anywhere. Your mind can be in 2019, it can be in 2030. It can even be ruminating on something from 1861. I don't know where that number came from. It can time travel. It can be at the grocery store. It can be at dinner. It can be back at work, even though you've left. But the body could only be where we are. And so, one of the most direct ways, people always say, "What do you mean by being?" And I'm like, "Oh, notice your body. What do you mean by that, Octavia? Put your hands on your legs and just notice where hands and legs touch. And so in that moment that we become really aware of our bodies, we are present. And then you give your mind that anchor point. Okay, I'm just noticing my body. So we're noticing the body, noticing where hips touch ground, maybe noticing that we want a softer pillow, right? We get information when we notice. And then start to notice your breath. And when I say notice, I really mean pay attention. Pay attention to your breath. Will you notice the inhalation as it touches the inside of the nostrils, right? It's subtle and it's also really pretty pronounced when we start to pay attention to it. And then notice the exhalation when it leaves. What are we doing here? Nothing. And that doesn't mean that nothing's happening, right? So we're not forcing, we're not straining, we're not trying to make anything happen. We are simply paying attention to where it is that we are right now. And then to something that we take for granted, which is quite profound, our breath. So notice the inhalation. Notice exhalation. And in between the inhale and the exhale, there's a pause. In between the exhale and the inhale, there's a pause. So even this most vital movement called breath is punctuated on either side by a pause. So 5 more cycles of that, just inhaling, noticing, pause. Exhale, noticing the pause. 4 more times of that. One more inhale that way. Notice the pause, then exhale. Next time, take a full breath in through your nose. Exhale everything out with a sigh. Do that 2 more times. Deep breath, full breath, right? In through your nose, drink in the breath. Exhale with a sigh. And then 1 more time, full breath. Exhale. Eyes closed or open, gaze soft. Drop your head, right? So you just kind of bring your chin to your chest and let your head hang. Notice what that feels like. And then just move your head to the left. Let the left ear fall toward the left shoulder. And then move the chin back to the center. And then move it to the right. And pause. So we let that be a little bit more fluid. Move to the left, move to the right. Slower than you want it to be. Slower than whatever is your normal way of moving. You might take the head back, but sometimes that feels really crunchy in the neck. But if taking the head back feels okay, you can. And then really slow down the movement without creating strain. And then just bring your chin back to the center. Then shrug your shoulders up, draw them back, drop them down, right? So that's the movement. The head's hanging, you draw the shoulders up, back and down. More than the shoulders, right, might move, right? So your chest might start to lift. Then you draw shoulders back and down. You let your hands be heavy and relaxed, your elbows heavy and relaxed. Then just lift the right shoulder up, drop it back and down, then lift the left shoulder up, drop it back and down, right? So it's a little bit of, creates a little bit of a swaying, right? So if you can keep the neck soft, the head can continue to hang, or you could lift the head up. And then this movement might just shift into something that doesn't look like anything I'm saying, right? You might start to move through the torso. You might lift an arm, just find a little bit of really intentional, connected movement. Some of us said the back needed to rest. It might also need some attention, right? You can put your hands on your back and just rub wherever you can reach as you move. Right? So take a few more cycles of breath. Still really connected to the breath and just move with intention. Right? So I use the word rest a lot, and I'm not just talking about laying down when I talk about rest. I'm like, is this movement restorative? One way I define rest is that which restores, refuels, refuels, provides refuge. Does this movement do any of that, right? So it's not laying down, being cozy like we're going to do later, but what does the movement give you? How does it nourish you? 5 more breaths this way. Just a little bit of movement. Three more breaths this way. Two more breaths. One more breath. Pause there. Eyes still closed, our gaze soft, eyelids heavy either way. Now notice your inhale, the pause, and now notice your exhale and the pause. Remember the part of you that you named, right, as most in need of rest. Remember that place. And you might silently say, I give you permission to rest, right? If it's eyes, I give you permission to rest. If it's heart, I give you permission to rest, heart. If it's my brain, I give you permission to rest. If it's some part of your identity, right? The boss part of me, I give you permission to rest. We're tired. And it's so important, right? That you give yourself permission to rest, that you give yourself permission. Because if someone else gives it to you, they have the power, right? They can take it back. One more breath here. And then you drop your head again. You let your head hang. You take your hands and hold your head in your hands, just like this. Sometimes life makes you feel like this is what I need and want to do. Just hold my head in my hands. And do that without the shoulders creeping up. Do that with heavy elbows. Really let the head rest in the hands. Breathe here. Pause here. Rest here. Be right here. And then just really slowly use your hands to lift your head. So you're not just going to lift the head up. You're going to slowly push hands into face and lift your head up. Once the chin is parallel to the floor, keep the hands over your eyes. But really, just if eyes are closed, slowly start to let them open with the hands over the eyes. Light starts to stream in. And then slowly remove the hands. Slowly remove your hands. Open your eyes. Notice and feel how that feels. Notice what you notice. Feel what you feel right here. And then you are welcome to share in the chat how that feels, what's present for you now. Even though we hardly moved, did something shift, right? Even though we didn't do very much, have you experienced some change, right? So stillness can shift us. Stillness can move us. Stillness can relieve us. Looking at the comments, calm us. It can do all these things, right? It can nourish us. Yeah. And so you don't have to look back at your computer, right? I'll read to you how we are after that as a collective, peaceful, feeling relief, grounded, and rested, calm, very comfortable and calming, nourished, comforted, and grief, right? So things rise up, right? Things come to the surface when we move a little bit like we did, very slow, intentional movement, right? That's not how we normally move. Like, do you do that every day? Or in your regular life, do you move with some fluidity and slowness? And then when we get still, things rise to the surface, right? And there's nothing to do with any of it, all of it, be it nourishment or the grief that comes, right? Sometimes when we get still. And I want to honor, I think it's Diana that said that. I experienced that too. Sometimes I tune into my heart and I go, oh, there's that brokenheartedness. Sometimes I'm more the experience is, oh, that's spacious, that's open. And sometimes I'm like, there's an ache, there is a longing. And as long as I stay in motion, I don't have to feel that. But what I'm also aware of is that just because I'm in motion and not feeling it doesn't mean it's not there and not in some way informing or even dictating the way I move and engage, right? So we notice, we pause right here. We did a little practice, a short practice, and notice what's present for you. So yeah, I like to pause after all the things. And sometimes people are like, is she okay? And I'm like, I'm just practicing. I'm just practicing. I don't just write about this. I stay in the practice of it, right? Okay. Because when we pause, right, we can go, how that affect me? What's the vibration of that? What's the resonance of that? Normally, we just move to the next thing. And we don't really know. The pause is also a place of processing, of digesting and processing, of resting and digesting, if you will. And without the pause, we're just accumulating experience, accumulating more stuff without giving it a real opportunity to move through. So an irony or a paradox, I'll say, about the pause or rest is that things metabolize when we rest, right? Things shift and move, right? Clarity comes. Yeah. So I want to shift us to more traditional seeming, right? In this one sense, rest practice. And what I mean by that is lay down in your bed, lay down on the floor. If you're at your desk, like I am, put your head down on your desk, okay? Yeah. Do something that's different than what you were doing before in terms of how you hold your body. And then if there is something that's less than comfortable coming up to the surface, my invitation for you is to really cocoon yourself in your practice. And what that looks like is wrap your ankles up, bundle up in a blanket, put a pillow under your head. Make sure that you create a lot of physical stability and comfort. That gives you a soft place to land no matter what hard thing might arise, right? If that's happening for you. If you're in your favorite recliner, just ease back in that, right? So you're laying down, you're snuggling in, or if you're at your desk like me, you put your head down. And again, eyes can close, or the gaze can just get really heavy. We return to that kind of stream we were in of noticing the physical body and what's supporting it, what's holding it, what's underneath the body, what's on top of it, even if it's just clothes, right? And so just letting the body yield to the support, inviting the body to yield to the support beneath you, above you, around you. We've done this before. Notice your breath. And notice doesn't mean manipulate, change, try to control. It's just experience your breath. Experience your breath. And then begin to relax to your toes. Relax the ankles. Relax the feet. Relax the ankles again. Relax the shins, calves, knees. Relax the inner thighs. Relax the thighs, front and back. Relax the glutes. Relax the hips. Relax the lower back, middle back, upper back. Relax the shoulders. Relax the shoulders again. Relax the shoulders. Relax the back of the neck. Relax the back of the head. Relax the top of the head. Relax the forehead. Relax the face. Relax the front of the neck. Relax the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. Relax the space around the collarbones. Relax the upper arms. Relax the elbows. Relax the forearms. Relax the wrist. Relax the hands and fingers. Relax the center of the chest. Relax the abdomen. Relax the hips. Relax the thighs. Relax the knees, the calves, the shins, the ankles, the feet, the toes. Relax the whole body. Relax the whole body. Relax the whole body. Relax the mind. Relax the mind. Relax the mind. Relax the emotions. Relax the emotions. Relax the emotions. Relax the heart. Relax the heart. Relax the heart. Mind, body, emotions, heart, totally and completely relax, deeper and deeper relax. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. The whole being relaxes, restores, receives. And while you rest, I want to read a prayer for all of our beginnings from Pause, Rest, Be. The Great Spirit of Beginnings, thank you. Thank you for meeting us here. We ask you to bless our beginnings and feel the way ahead with grace, ease, and space to rest for a spell of time. We've come a mighty long way to start. We promise to remember who and what came before us, to honor the lessons from the roads we've traveled. Teach us to not despise our beginnings, even if they are humble as dirt, because all good and worthy things rise from the ground. Every blossom was once a tiny little thing in need of sunlight and water, just like us. We pour libations from the back of our eyes onto the altar of this beginning. We create a stream that stretches across and through the world and doesn't let us forget that every minute someone exhales for the last time, as someone inhales for the first time. From the pulpit of our hearts, we lift our voices toward the divine sanctuary of your ear. We dig down into our souls to offer up this old hymn as we face something brand new. Take my hands, lead me on, let me stand through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, lead me home. No matter where you find yourself, I pray you have the courage to pause sometimes, to rest and look within, to be still and know that you are not lost. You are making your way home. You are making your way home. Notice the sounds that you can hear in the room that you are in. Notice the sound of your breath. Notice the sound of your breath. Notice your mind, the quality of mind, and be curious about what part of you it is that is noticing and witnessing the mind versus being entangled within the thoughts. Notice your heart. Notice that part of you that you said was most in need of resting. Notice your body. And then begin to bring movement back into your body. It can be wiggling fingers and toes. It can be wiggling your nose. It can be just moving your head from left to right. And then you can reach your arms up overhead and stretch out through your fingertips. If you're at your desk, you'll just kind of press your hands down and really, really, really slowly lift yourself up. If you're lying all the way flat, you'll bend your knees and roll onto your right side. And then you just silently ask yourself the question, what am I ready to begin? What am I ready to begin? And if something comes, you write that down in your journal. And then wherever you are, you place your dominant hand at your heart. Eyes can be open or closed. And you just silently say to yourself again, I give myself permission to rest. I give myself permission to pause, to rest, and to be. And then you take a full breath in through your nose. Exhale everything out with a sigh. And then you just notice, eyes open. Again, notice Mary Oliver has this poem where she says, notice, she doesn't say notice. She says, though we hardly move, we traveled some distance. Stillness, one of the doorways into the temple. And so you just notice where this hardly moving, where this stillness, what doorway or what temple did it bring you to? And again, you're welcome to share in the chat what's present for you. How are you feeling now? And then while you're sharing or considering how you feel, we'll be shifting into some time for you to ask me questions about writing, about resting, about my process, about something that you experienced in the practice. So this is where it gets interesting with that practice, especially when I can't see you. I go, I think everybody's asleep or doesn't want to move, and that's totally acceptable too. People are feeling peaceful, feeling open and alive. Yeah. So another interesting thing, right? Rest awakens us. There you have it, right? Yeah. So if you have questions, you can type them into the Q&A box.
I actually have one to start things off, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I'd love to know how you came to this work.
Oh, so so I chuckle because it's in the intro, and it's of the book Pause, Rest, Be, and I'll try to give you the short. Basically, pure exhaustion, overworking, completely imbalanced relationship between movement, doing, producing, and being all the things to everyone, nothing to myself, landed me with this condition called rhabdomyolysis, and I was hospitalized. And it's a condition, you have to work out a lot to get this. Sometimes ultra marathon runners have it. Olympic weightlifters do it. I'm 5'1" and I'm none of those things. That gives you context for how much I was using my actual body and how much I was taxing my actual mind. And landing with this condition in the hospital bed also caused me to encounter this nurse who I call an angel. I don't remember her name, but as she administered medicine, she also ministered to my spirit. And in that ministering to my spirit, she said, I was much younger. This is probably, 12, 13 years ago at this point. She said, what are you running from, A? Why are you in here? How do you get yourself in this situation? And why can't you be still? Why can't you rest? And I felt so confrontational. And she said to me, you need to remember Psalms 46:10, which is be still and know. And so this reckoning and my relationship to rest turned and shifted. And I say this kind of work I do was conceived, right? Rather conceived in a hospital bed. And though I had this breakdown that brought me to this moment, I didn't have that ministering to spirit from the nurse and automatically go, I know exactly what to do. I'm going to get out of here, out of this hospital and do better. Is, you don't go from living how I was living, basically sleeping for 3 to 4 hours, working or working out all day, to, oh, I can sit still and meditate for 5 minutes. You don't go. So it was a slow and deliberate shift from doer of the most to being what I call now a devotee to rest. So really, it was pure exhaustion that brought me to this work. And I thank many healers, if we can call ourselves that, we must stay close to the medicine that we really need. this is something I know just being a practitioner that many people there, I sometimes say I'm pouring medicine out of this wound that is healing as I continue, right? And I share that just to be really transparent. I didn't come to rest like la 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 la, skipping through the field of grass. I came kicking and screaming. Um, for many reasons, right? Like so many folks, my identity completely wrapped up in what I could produce and do, my sense of self-worth, even what, how valuable am I if I can't do for you, if I can't produce for you, if I can't perform. So that's a lot of words. You ask one question, you get all these answers. But I also think many people can likely identify with a distorted relationship between rest and work, and deeply internalized conditioning that we have to earn rest when rest is a birthright, is as necessary as breath, is also for me a sustainability practice, right? Um, yeah. So Kelly has a question. Can you share a bit about your daily practice? Um, It varies. And what I always say about this is that this is my rest is my work, interestingly enough, right? And so sometimes I have these really, I'm a doer of many rituals, right? And sometimes they're really elaborate and take a long time. And that's just, I'm a practitioner, right? So what I do is sometimes different than what I would tell someone else to do. And my daily practice, Octavia, the mother to a 5-year-old, the partner, the business owner, the author, that practice is a 10-minute meditation practice every morning, every single morning, and a 10-minute yoga nidra practice in Shavasana, which is, corpse pose, lying flat out. Like that is, if I can't do anything else, that's what I do. But then I weave practice into my life so that it's not always this separate, really precious thing, right? And what I mean by that is when I wake up in the morning, I say thank you. That's a practice, right? I take the time to say thank you. So many of us, we wake up, feet hit the ground, we're running, right? Or we reach for the phone. Now we're in our day, we're scrolling through the emails. And I used to do that. And I was like, why are my days crappy? Well, look how you start them, right? So one practice, wake up, say thank you. And I have an affirmation I say that I'm not going to say out loud, right? Because it's really personal. I say it 3 times, then I step into my day, right? Um, and one of my teachers, Tracy Stanley, who has a book, Radiant Rest, which you should buy from Northshire as well. She has what is called the householder's prayer in that book on rest. And she gives some practices like, as I chop vegetables, I pray, right? And so there's this space for dedicated practice and this invitation to make the way we live and the way we be and the way we're relating to ourselves and each other more intentional, mindful, and restful, right? Because sometimes we're not going to have a whole hour to do what we just did. And also, I wanted to just share that I broke tonight's practice into 2 10 to 15-minute practices because that really represents what I do the most in my practice, right? And so if what you have is 10 minutes a day, that is gold. Use those 10 minutes and that could be sitting in a chair doing one thing like drinking a cup of tea versus tea, writing, texting, right? So I hope that's helpful, Kelly. A little bit about my practice.
Octavia, thank you so much. We are almost out of time, but there's a question here in the Q&A box from Callie that I'd like to get a chance to ask before we have to part this evening. And she says, how do you keep yourself in check when you find yourself steering towards the path of burnout, of overwhelmment, of being overwhelmed, of being overloaded?
So I just launched a book, right? In the midst of so many things. And a truth is, in any given engagement that I have, or with my book, let me use my book, I'm very clear on what the purpose and mission and point of writing this book and sharing with people is. And anything that is outside of alignment with that, I just say no to it. I don't feel guilty about it. I don't make it seem personal. I just say no, right? So being really clear on my whys and my intention supports me in understanding what the true priority is. I also ask for support and help a lot more than I ever used to, and I allow myself to receive that. And daily practice in some way, shape, form, or fashion is essential, right? It's like rinsing. I don't wait until I'm at the brink to try to start recalibrating and supporting myself. And so what I know is that when we're intentional and we're paying attention, we notice that we need to press the brake long before we're skidding off the road. But when we're constantly in this mode and we're not engaging with the pause, we don't have a relationship with the pause, then the brake is hard, meaning when we do come to a stop, the skid marks, it smells like burning rubber. And so that's 3 things I just said. I'm paying attention a lot more. I'm honoring the natural pauses, and I don't skip my 10-minute practice because it helps me to rinse. And when I need a longer practice than 10, because I'm like, oh, I need a bigger reset, I find a way to take it by any means, right? And I really mean that, by any means. Like, it's pretty radical to be like, by any means, I will make sure that I am sustained, right? So that I can continue and deeply be impactful, because I can actually continue. So I hope that's helpful in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
It's wonderful. Octavia, this has been such a joy and such a balm for me, something that I really needed. I think our audience probably felt very much the same. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us tonight.
Thank you. And I know we're at time, but what I want folks to do is to identify 2 or 3 people in your lives who need to pause, rest, be, who want to pause, rest, be, or who you want to pause, rest, be with. Identify them, see them in your mind's eye, and then click that link that they're going to drop in the chat. And please order 2 more of the books specifically for those people in your lives. And even if you're like, I can't think of 2, I know you know 2 people, right, who need to pause and who need to rest and who need to be. And it's also really important that we support independent bookstores so that we can keep having them. They are lifeblood in our community. So please support Northshire when you buy more copies of the book, and get Tracy Stanley's Radiant Rest from them as well. You can order it online through them. So thank y'all both for having.
Thank you all so much. Have a great evening.